District Council meeting for the 9th of August 2022. So it's lovely to see you today, and I have great pleasure in introducing our new CE, Aileen Laurie, and she's got her training wheels on today. So I'm just thrilled to have Aileen here, and so we had a wonderful property yesterday to welcome you, and it was just fantastic to see and meet and get to know the people from Waterfront. So I hope we strengthen those ties with the Waterfront. And welcome, Aileen. So great to have you here. So, but we will appreciate the fact that she is still getting to know things. I mean, she only arrived yesterday. So we've got Bruce still to add to the CE role in advising us today. So thank you, Bruce. And so we've just taken, firstly, apologies. Do I have any apologies? We have
Murray and Rekka.
Murray and Rekka, yes. Any further apologies? There being none, do I move it?
Comment.
Tony, seconded. Terry, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Now we have a public forum, and then we'll be hearing the submissions to the draft Tairua-Pauanui Reserves management plan that we couldn't hear due to weather events last week or two. And so we have first in the public forum is Guy McIndoe. Guys, just reiterate that this morning, due to the extent of the agenda, speakers will be given 3 minutes, and then we ask questions, and I just ask that everybody be respectful of everybody else. So welcome, bye.
Thank you. I stand here today as a living man in my natural state. I will only recognise or respond to my true given name, which is Guy, as I am not Crown property. Following careful reflection and deliberation of the submission we previously submitted to Council for your consideration this morning, written by concerned citizens, residents and ratepayers of the Coromandel District, we do not wish to speak to this document, as it has been superseded by a new document on the grounds that citizens, residents and ratepayers are by definition artificial persons that are deemed subjects of the Crown. Actions of capitis, minutio, maxima, media and minima have been used to construct these artificial persons from a man or woman's true name, given by his or her mother and or father. This is an action of misleading with intent to deceive and enslave. Slavery is a crime under the laws of commerce, and as living men and women, we do not tolerate this in any form. So instead, we are pursuing a new course of action following advice received last week. And we have a new document to present, which has been circulated with a stamped copy on the top. In addition, we have furnished your office staff with one fully executed and filling original on arrival this morning. This new document is an affidavit of conditional acceptance. It's addressed to Coromandel District Council, representatives of the New Zealand Crown. As an introduction, this is the affidavit of men and women in their natural state, part of a community known as Coromandel. We are not surety to any fictitious names or entities and reserve our right to the definition of sui juris in accordance with Black's Law 4th edition. This affidavit is created in the language of commerce for the simple reason that the corporation and representatives in this matter, being agents and contractors of the New Zealand Crown, as referred to in the following affidavit, only recognise the language of commerce in legal matters. So to the affidavit, as I say, an affidavit of conditional acceptance. Addressed to Thames Coromandel District Council, Waikato Regional Council, the New Zealand Crown, and all its agents, contractors, and privateers bound by commerce and contract, herein all recognised as one and the same. It's from a group of men and women in their natural state, part of a community known as Coromandel, having the ability to self-determine, standing in their natural state, with their feet firmly on the ground, and being of sound mind, bound only by the law of nature and equity and their creator. It is regarding the land of substance and its resources and its administration, located on the site in the town known as Coromandel, as outlined in red and cross-hatched with yellow highlighter on the attached aerial photograph. This is Annexure 1, it's the second to last page of the document you have in front of you. 1. We are notifying you that the following bodies, all considered as one and the same, Thames Coromandel District Council.
Can I ask a question? Because having speed read, it's going to take a very.
Gary,
What?
Gary.
I'm only reading 3 pages.
Excuse me,
Well, the 3
Gary,
pages is going to take a
can
long
you
time.
wait until he's finished his presentation first, and
Give him 3 minutes.
then we
He's
can
had that
ask
already.
questions?
He's had that 3 minutes already.
So, well, I'm adjudicating, so, as chair, so he's got a little bit left as far as I'm concerned, but you do need to truncate it if you wouldn't mind, John.
Well, there are one introductory statement notifying about the piece of land. There are then 9 statements of acceptance where we ask you to prove various points.
Thank you, Guy. I'm afraid that your time is up. And so I will invite questions, John.
Just through you, your worship, we do have a reasonable sized contingent of people that are obviously connected with Guy sitting over there. I wonder if you could use your discretion to just extend his time a little bit, as long as there are no other speakers coming up to repeat the same thing. Guy, are you the only speaker for this contingent?
I have a list of people representing the
Oh,
public forum.
Then that's fine.
As part of our group, we have.
So any questions of Guy and the content? You have a question, Gary?
No, the affidavit you refer to. Is
What's your question?
And you say it's unsworn because you failed to locate a competent justice.
No, it is sworn.
Yes.
It is sworn.
It is sworn. Okay, well, we haven't got a competent.
I'm sorry, but you do, it's furnished with.
Okay, well, my question is this. What actually are you seeking in layman's terms? Because this is Ghibli Court. I'd like to know, what are you asking for? We've got this highlighted area. What do you want done with it? Just say in sensible words we can understand.
This is an affidavit, and we present it under natural law, and it is not for us to give legal advice, counsel, but as I understand it, it is for you to provide.
So you're just providing information?
No, that we are giving you an affidavit in regards to this piece of land.
Okay, thank you, Guy.
Which we make certain claims.
But what are you asking? What do you want us to do? Just tell me what
Thank you for your presentation. We'll now call the next speaker. The next speaker is Francis Hanada.
So we had to together, myself and you. Would you go just to keep on?
I'm sorry, who is it? Who are you saying was with you?
Julia.
Okay, so she is listed as a speaker for the public forum, so I'm happy to accept Julia next. In lieu of Francis, just before Francis is here.
No.
So you have 3 minutes, Julia.
Good morning, and thank you all for being in service to this community. I think you have a lot of troubles already on your hands, and it's very difficult to make decisions. I don't want to take your time, but I want to offer that I'd like to give you an offer of inspiration. What you've just heard is to approach any wish for claim of the community from a different point of view. If we stay in the very extensive vocabulary that we've framed legally, we're staying in the vocabulary of commerce. We use reference numbers for everything, IDs, numbers, family names. They are going under law of commerce, not under natural law. So to clarify, we state that we don't want to be traded, and we also don't want land to be traded. And fictitious entity, an artificial entity, like the Corporation New Zealand, does not own land of substance. We are looking to claim land. If we consider ourselves natural man and woman, that's what I consider myself. It is on a different. And extend my heart to you because it is a very difficult situation. There have been attempts made to consider natural law in the past. The French Revolution was asking for equality, freedom, and brotherhood. We have very little left of this these days. But we can call on the natural law that entitles us to all three of them. So we do not wish to be titled in commercial law. We would like to be talked to as a natural man and woman. Under those laws, and we feel them every day, there are natural consequences. What we sow, we reap. How we deal with our land, how we deal with our health, how we deal with society is what we reap now. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask? a
Question?
Have you heard the phrase natural justice?
I've heard of the phrase natural law.
Thank you, Tony.
Don't you know what natural?
We're not here to debate that, Gary. Tony, would you have a question?
Well, my question is, what is it that the men and women in their natural state are wanting? Because I've just read that very quickly and I do not understand anything in that document, apart from there's a lot of words and there's a reference. I don't know what it is you're asking for.
To consider the use of land as a living space for all and not to be determined and traded under the governance of a corporation.
Right, okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Sorry, I'm still with,
And I'm not asking. So I have a claim.
sorry, Julie, I'm still with Gary and Tony, and I'm unsure about how this relates to the business of council. So this,
This particular land,
yeah, so your property here, which I appreciate the anecdote
Yeah.
back there. So you're currently connected to council services, presumably, and you pay rates. Are you suggesting that that is going to be something that's going to change in the future? You're going to refuse to pay rates? Do you want the council services?
I'm suggesting,
I'm sorry, please be clear.
I'm very happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, she hasn't answered the question, Sandra.
I'm sorry.
Where would you like me to answer?
It's just,
I'd like mine, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
No, I couldn't hear Robert's question.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having to recollect what you said, but essentially, the space we're talking about is being notified to be used for 5G tower. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Yeah. So, for many different reasons, many of us are very concerned about it. And no doubt you've heard about all of that, and I don't want to bore you with this. But we are very concerned, so much so that we would like to put it to your heart to review any decisions that you might want to make on this, and to understand that we claim this land under
It's
natural
as
law.
clear as.
Thank you, John. Did you have a question?
no, I was going to ask Julia.
Thank you, Julia. So I'll ask the next speaker to come forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julia.
Francis Tanami.
Not here.
Okay, Elizabeth Carter.
To repeat something, so I intend not to waste anyone's time. Just got a few words to say. I don't think it's more than 3 minutes. Good morning, Thames. Kia ora. My name is Elizabeth Carter. Who am I? I am a local business owner. I'm a permanent resident and landowner in Coromandel. I'm also a mother, sister, a friend, a partner, and a neighbour. I'm just an everyday Joe Blogs, trying to live my life peacefully and privately, just like you all. I'm here to appeal to you today, not in your professional role as agents of the Crown, paid to follow the government narrative, but as individuals in your private capacity, as fellow human beings, parents and partners alike. I would love it if you would be open to really hearing the people you are employed to serve. The present injustice occurring to my fellow human beings is so great that I feel compelled to speak today, even though I much prefer not. So please, before you roll your eyes and write me off as an anti-vaxxer, a greenie, a flat earther, or a tinfoil hat wearer, I humbly request you listen, pay attention, and use your privilege to draw your own conclusions. Aside from the many concerns I have, such as health and environment in relation to 5G, I'm deeply concerned about the underlying agenda behind this new technology, namely digital identity and digital currency, which uses facial recognition and surveillance on a scale we've never experienced before. You may think that this sounds far-fetched and futuristic, but I assure you this is already happening. Just because it doesn't feature on the 6 o'clock news doesn't mean it isn't happening. In fact, it's all hiding in plain sight, and you can find it in our one trusted source of truth government website that I'm providing links for, such as digital.govt, such as the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, rbnz.govt. These links are here. I made 6 copies.
Thank you.
Again, it is all hiding in plain sight. This is part of the agenda for global centralisation of government and banking, and it equates to complete control of every aspect of your life. There is a lot more going on than meets the eye. If you believe the rollout of 5G is for your convenience, entertainment, or fast internet, I implore you to do some research of your own. I attach a third link, which is a presentation from Armin Jarvi. This is a great place to get up to speed, and you'll be hard pressed to find someone more qualified in his field. Make no mistake, a digital currency is essentially a social credit system. And with the capabilities of 5G surveillance, it will not be difficult to enforce. Please do your due diligence and dig deeper than the surface narrative. Before you are enslaved to a digital system, there will be no escape from. At the very least, understand that there is much more to consider than a simple upgrade of internet speed. Therefore, any plans to install further 5G towers, I ask, must cease. Legislation such as Radio Communication Act 1989 and the Privacy Act provide for an opt-out, and we can unsubscribe to those, or we can allow our hiccups. But I ask you, where is the option for the birds and the insects to opt out? Where is my opt-out for this blanket poison I neither want nor need? Do you consent? I certainly don't. Thank you.
Well done, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Just not there are any questions?
I was going to ask one thing. I understand your concern. I don't go on Facebook for real reasons of what I've observed in my practice. But were you referring to digital currency as well, were you?
Digital currency as well as digital ID.
Because my understanding is the government take digital currency, they're at odds with each other. So I was just a little uncertain about
They're at odds with each other because at the moment it's not government centralised. So they don't want Bitcoin because they can't tax it or control it. What they want is a central government digitalised system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Well done. Our next speaker is Wendy Pond. Was Wendy here? Wendy Pond?
No.
Is Francis Naro here? No?
Sandra, I'm aware that there are people waiting outside. I don't know if those speakers,
Is there somebody waiting outside?
there's a group of them outside. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Alistair Brickle. How's our night sky coming along?
Can I talk about that?
Oh, hey, you've only got 3 minutes.
Well, I'm here representing 3 groups. Does that mean 3 minutes?
Oh, maybe a bit of time here.
Okay, so
No,
Continue residents and ratepayers, the Mercury Bay Historical Society and Dark Skies. Dark Skies, take 30 seconds, we'll do that
Let me
again.
condense it.
Okay, so Continue Residents and Ratepayers Association, I'm a committee member. I wanted to talk about the speed management plan, which has come out recently. I don't know if you've got the document in front of you, but page 248. There's a map there.
I'm not going to cut your time because of me interrupting you, but the speed management plan is out for public consultation. So if you speak on it, it cuts into your time and you can do a submission and speak on it at that time.
Yes.
Just saying.
Thank you for that. We'll do a submission there as well. I just want to highlight a couple of points. I think there might be an error on section 2 on page 248, the naming of the RP section. I think section 2 should be RP 300 to 4687.
Give me an email.
Okay, we'll do. As a group, we just want to say thank you very much for doing this work. We've been banging on about speed limits in Katoona Village for about 2 decades now. I see it's going to be reduced to 30 kilometers an hour. We totally support that, and thank Ed Raleigh and all the people who have been working on that. And also for Irish Town Road, same speed limit. We are concerned about a section from Katoona Village over to Otama. That is being recommended as being 80 kilometers an hour. We think that is too high because, as noted in the document, that is a tortuous road. And it's also noted that the safe and appropriate speed on all unsealed roads is set at 60 kilometers an hour.
Then you submit it.
Yeah, we will do. That's why we enforce it. So we think that should be 60, not 80. And also we'd like to have a plan of the traffic calming threshold style treatments that are quoted there. I'm not sure what they are. I presume they're speed bumps or something. We'd like to plan for that for the Ratepayers Association if we could, so we can consult on that. Because it's not clear from the map what that's going to be. Okay, that's the ratepayers. I'm chairman of the Mercury Bay Historical Society. There is a document here about the Whitianga Esplanade redevelopment, attachment A, the map there. We're concerned that we had some input, and myself personally as well, about the Hogan path along the waterfront with little plaques, with a picture of a historical event in Mercury Bay's history, and they're lovely. But the Hogan path is made up of white gravel. That gravel is seriously eroding those plaques and to the extent that 1 or 2 are unreadable after only a year or 2. So I want to know if council has any insurance claim on the designers and or installers of those plaques, because they're flush with the gravel is just grinding them away. So we want to make sure that whatever happens for this great development plan in the future, that they don't use that style of plaque and gravel. It just doesn't work together. It's a dumb idea. It looks good on paper, but the gravel is actually eroding away the pictures and the text on those informative plaques. So it's not a good idea. Okay, Dark Sky, this is just an update, especially for the mayor who always asks me to speak about that. I never do. Okay, as some of you are aware, we are applying for the International Dark Sky accreditation for the Katoona Peninsula Dark Sky community. I'm on the working group with that. We had a very successful Maritime event a month or so ago. Just to update, I personally run with my wife Stargazers, Astronomy Tours, and B&B. We had an approach from the European Space Agency about 3 weeks ago. To us, they wanted to install a robotic telescope, which will be controlled from Europe, but sited in the Katoona area. And they're approaching us because they know we are a dark sky or aspiring dark sky region. So we want to make sure that this goes through this dark sky thing and is underway now with our consultants, Carver Consultants, and Ed Raleigh and Bruce Baker. So we just want to reinforce that things are happening already, acknowledging our efforts and the council's efforts on the dark sky. It'll probably end up, this telescope will probably end up being in Albedo rather than Katoona because we've got crappy internet.
But things are happening, people are noticing that we're applying for dark sky. We have got exceptional dark skies here. We want to keep it that way. And
So where are they going to site the telescope?
well, we're still in the works, Sandra. We think possibly Eropito, Ed Riley over there. I was in Australia in central Queensland about 3 weeks ago, looking at a site. They've got 4 of these planned for Australia. 3 of the 4 are at very high power observatories, the Mount Stromlo one, the Australian, Anglo-Australian telescope at Coonabarabran. That's where they're siting the other ones. And they want one here on Carmen. So the dark sky program is already having an effect, and we've been looking at dark skies, and we want to keep it that way. And the long-term plan is to expand from Coatunu out to Whangapoa, Matarangi, Coromandel, and eventually Thames and onwards. And
So what's the optimum type of site for that telescope?
a dark sky. And
No, I'm talking about the topography.
it's a small thing, on the side of this table. It's a small robotic telescope. It'll just be,
Elevated site?
yeah, it'll be fixed. It's going to encase and has.
No, I'm not asking about the telescope.
Oh, sorry.
The telescope, you're talking about the ground, what's the
ground.
geographic, type of geographic location? What's
Anyway,
the optimum geographic location
Well, they want something.
within, is it a mountain? Is it?
No, not necessarily. Ideally, yes, you put it in a top of Chile. Or
It's not here.
ideally, but we haven't got that here. So they want it in the northern New Zealand. I think they're looking at the lines of longitude, and they want a particular east-west area. So that's where we fit in, and some of the dark skies, and very stable.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of Alistair? There being none, I appreciate that. Thank you to all 3 of your organisations.
Okay, thank you.
Really appreciate their input. Well done. Betty Cole, she hasn't come. Francis Hanade, not here again tonight. Then we are now here, move on from, do we have to move this execution of this? So,
I'll move we receive the public forum.
I'll second.
Thank you.
any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
It's carried. We're now moving to hearing of submission to the draft Tairua-Pauanui Reserves Management Plan. And we have Phoebe.
Sandra, I have my name on that list.
What is your name, please?
Here, Guru.
I haven't got you on my list. Okay, we can get. Oh, okay, you can have, hold on with the submissions. My apologies, you're not on my list, otherwise I would have called you.
Namaste, kia ora, kia ora. My name is Nira Giri. I'm a resident of Mauiwai Park Road in Whitianga. We have a proposed 5G tower going up. Here's my home and the residents that live there, and that's where TCDC have kindly gone into a contract with Vodafone to put up a 5G tower so close. This storage shed here is the lobster company. They have live crayfish in it. And we know from research done numerous countries around the world how harmful 5G is to anything that has a circadian rhythm. That's you and I, people. We have a night and day clock, and so do insects, birds, and the birds use their circadian rhythm. It also affects their ability to navigate, and we have a lot of coastal birds. So first of all, for those people who can't see, I bought some of these. You can pass it down, so you can see how close to residential homes this is supposed to be. I've also come with over 400 signatures from people who live in Mauiwai Park Road and around Mauiwai Park Road. So just to note, everybody here, that each individual signature is a human being, a person who's a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, a cousin, a niece, a nephew. Those signatures are of the children that share the bus stop that's going to be literally metres away from the proposed tower. So there's over 400 signatures to go to Vodafone, and the 30-year contract that TCDC may have already signed, I don't know, because I've asked numerous times or a copy of their agreement with Vodafone. So our community currently already has our circadian rhythm disturbed by the 4G tower, which is, as you can see in this diagram, just where Richard Vetter's scaffolding businesses. And some of us experience the tinnitus hum every night. I know it's an industrial area and it is loud and noisy in the daytime, but you come and have a sleepover at my house, I welcome you all. And you can tell me what your night's sleep was like at my home. And it's not just one night. I would like to invite you 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day of this radiation that we're experiencing. So I do invite you to come, because year in, year out, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years of that exposure, women who have lived under these towers in England and other parts of the world have experienced breast cancer. In Melbourne, people who had a tower above their residential area, the top floor residents, 8 of them accumulated brain tumours. And I want to explain to you how this happens. We are a living being.
I'm sorry, but you're exceeded your limit.
I just want to explain to you about our melatonin. Our melatonin is a hormone that helps, and what's its job is to mop up your
So thank you,
cells.
and I'm going to conclude. Can I just ask you a question? I'm going to open it for questions. What is the radiation width for the 5G and its effect?
Well, the 4G has a huge effect on us already, and we're already the distance.
Its effective distance.
They recommended 2 kilometres away from any residential area, but we are not even 50 metres. I mean, where you're proposing is not even. I can look out my back window and see it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I'm currently 75 metres
Are there
away.
any other questions of Mary?
So are you suggesting you could put it further out of the town centre?
I don't want it near anybody's children. I'm here to fight for the birds, the bees and the butterflies that cannot sit here and say, I've got a dead kiddo in my street, and it's from the disoriented.
Thank you.
Could you just expand a little bit on the melatonin side?
Yes, please. I'm sorry, I should have read from this and I got a bit disorganised. So basically, we have a pineal gland. All of you have a pineal gland in your brain, and your pineal gland's job is to secrete melatonin in your sleep time. Its job is to do that, but when radiation is present, the pineal gland gets confused and it can't tell between light waves and radio waves. So it stops the excretion of melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that mops up your dead shedded cells that you shed every day, every day. So if 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the track, you are not getting that REM sleep, your melatonin's not being produced, you're not sleeping, and these are from professionals, not me. I'm just experiencing it because I've been under Richard Vetter's 4G tower for a few years now. Hence some of the behaviours that you're experiencing from some of the residents. I've got residents on my street who can't sleep.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of Mary? Thank you, Mary.
Mira.
Mira, beg your pardon. Thank you, Mira.
And I don't want any children to be exposed to it either.
Right, we're now listening to the submission to the draft. Tairua-Pauanui Reserves Management Plan. Ben,
Mira.
please.
You dropped your mask under the desk, sorry.
Is Ben Grubb here?
I've emailed you guys a copy of my presentation. It's linked to all professionals that will vouch.
Ben, would you like to take the chair or come to the front? So we're now listening to the draft Tairua-Pauanui Reserves Management Plan submission from Ben Grubb. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Sandra. We were going to come here for the last meeting, but there was a weather event.
Yes.
Couldn't get through.
This was going to be presented by 3 of us, by Alan Tate, by Mark Beach and by myself. Unfortunately, Alan is in South Island at the moment. Mark was over in Australia on business, and so you just got me, I'm afraid. you will have read the submission that we've made, and what I want to do is just talk about the most important aspects of what we want to talk about. We had a discussion over a dinner table, a couple of us. I'm a member of the Tairua Environment Society. The Environment Society made a pre-consultation submission. Everything that we put in that pre-consultation submission was ignored when the draft came out, absolutely everything. So over a dinner table, we discussed what we should be doing, and we should be not just putting in a few things, but putting in all of the things that are not happening at Te Karo Bay. Okay, so we've made a comprehensive list. The list has the current issues that require little or virtually no additional spending for council, and future issues that council can plan for. So to avoid having haphazard responses to things that happen when they occur and they become urgent, we're asking for council to plan ahead for how Te Karo Bay is managed. I'm certain the consultants don't really understand how much use Te Karo Bay is. When was it? Anniversary day last year, I think on the Sunday, my wife and I went out and counted the cars that were at Te Karo Bay at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. There were 98. When we went through to Tairua, we went to the main beach at both ends of the ocean beach, to the beach by the entrance to Mary Bay, and we counted 95 cars. Now, obviously, there are people that are walking to those beaches and so on, but the fact that there were 98 cars, actually more at Te Karo Bay, would suggest that there's a huge amount of use at Te Karo Bay, and council needs to plan for that. Our view is that Te Karo Bay is quite special. It is different to just about everywhere else, and it needs to be recognised. We think that there needs to be a professional assessment of what Te Karo Bay is by people that know what I'm talking about, by a professional such as a landscape architect, and then guidelines are presented to council so that anything that was done there fits within those guidelines to protect the amenity value and natural character of the area. We think that the area, the second point, we think that the area should be managed and seen as one complete entity from the top of the road all the way down, because the whole thing is a total thing. And so any development that happens, whether it be on the road, on the beach, on the reserves or wherever, should follow the same guidelines. I want to talk about illegal camping and fire. Fire is our biggest threat, and we put that at the top of the issues that need to be addressed immediately. In the Northern Hemisphere at the moment, you can see fire is a major climate change event. We're going to have the same thing here. We have dry areas, we have Te Karo Bay with its natural bush, and it's a wilding pine around behind. We think that fire could basically destroy this whole area. So council needs to address that. We have situations where illegal camping is happening on the beach, but also in lots and lots of areas. Whitianga Grove, an area between Whitianga Grove and the Maritime car park, out through to Otara Bay and so on. We think that council needs to actually seriously address that issue. We're suggesting that council compliance staff check all the area at dusk every night over Christmas, so that, well, currently what happens is that somebody sometimes turns up in the morning, but by the morning the fire has been lit and it's out. Addressing illegal camping at dusk when they're setting up their camp spot would actually do a lot towards addressing that issue. Dogs. our submission is not anti-dog, but there are things that really need to be addressed in the dog issue at Tairua Bay, considering that Tairua Bay has the Whenua PDQ care area all around it. We're asking for a prohibition on the track that walks between Tairua Bay and Otaru Bay, where Otaru Bay dogs are prohibited, and the only track to get to Otaru Bay really needs that same prohibition, which you can read about in the full submission. It can be done. Section 10 of the dog management bylaw allows for temporary prohibitions, and I think council should be able to use that. The kiwi zone. One of the issues that we have is that the dogs are allowed off lead, but presumably under control on the beach. But in the car park, on the road, and so on, they need to be on lead. Virtually nobody ever does that. So the dogs are off lead in the whole area. It's almost impossible, I think, to actually go and put up signs. You've got to go and put your lead on here, and you've got to take the lead off here. But we think that if there was signage talking about the work of the Whenua PDQ care area, people would actually look at that and say, I want to be responsible. I put my dog on lead so that my dog cannot just get lost. As a resident, not regularly, but enough to be concerned, we have people knocking on our door saying, I've lost my dog. I'm down on the beach, I've lost my dog. And the question is, how on earth can you lose your dog when you're supposed to be under control? But we are right in the kiwi area, and we have seen kiwi on our driveway. Our driveway is somewhere between 30 and 40 metres from that Otara walkway. We think that's a whole area that needs to be sorted. And finally, consultation should be listening to the people, but it seems like consultation is just a process that council goes through, and in the process alienates people. I finish by saying we are the people who are familiar with and use the Tairua Bay public spaces. We have particular knowledge of what is happening here, the changes and the challenges as public use increases, and we have understanding of what makes the area valuable and how it can be protected and enhanced.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Nicely rounded off. Thank you very much indeed. Any questions of Ben?
Yeah, I've just got one of them.
Well, Martin was first, and Terry.
Just looking at that car park there, it's quite tiny. So when you said there was 80 or 90 something?
98.
Was that along the length of Sailor Grove Road as well as the car park?
Okay, there's two car parks, one of the Tailor Road, we're told to maybe 12 cars.
Yep.
There's the main car park where the toilets are, and then there's an area right down the very bottom of the road where cars turn around.
Okay.
And yes, you're right, cars are parked on either side of the road, almost in the ditches, the full length, creating all sorts of problems for traffic. Cars, kids walking across, getting out of the car, walking across the road, and vehicles coming and so on. It is actually quite a serious situation. And it's something that we put in our submission as being something that council should be looking at in the future. We're not saying something has to be, or money has to be spent immediately, but we're saying this is an issue that's coming up as use increasing. But most importantly, we're saying that if you're going to go and address these issues, then you need to plan for it. And it needs to be planned in a sympathetic way, so the place is not destroyed and we don't end up like Mission Bay.
Terry.
Just about to answer my question. So, yeah, we'd like, you're very passionate about this, and we'd like to see you involved with the ongoing control of the reserve and have your input to it. So we're hoping you will do that.
What's the question, Terry?
That they're prepared to work together to do this.
Well, I think that if council is prepared to go and employ a landscape architect, the landscape architect is starting to ask us what we think are important, and then a plan can be developed and guidelines.
So I'll ask, Ben, how many permanent residents within Te Bay?
Sorry.
How many permanent residents are there within the bay?
I think there's 8 houses have permanents.
And absentee,
There might be another 20.
20? Thank you.
Yes, we don't have many people, and as a result, we don't really get much of a voice. In a normal place where tourist area, there's lots and lots of people, and I'll put that in the submission.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. Any other questions of Ben? There being none, thank you very much for coming in today.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Christine. Welcome.
My name's Christine Hatton, and I've been the landowner at Tairua-Pauanui Reserves for 28 years. So I've seen sailors with absolutely nothing, no infrastructure whatsoever. The natural character was beautiful, and hence it attracted me and many other residents like Ben to the area. Now, over time, because the road went in probably 35 years ago to take it down, of course, more and more people have been coming there. It's a unique place in the Coromandel because you can drive there and it's not surrounded by houses, and it's the natural character, beautiful palm trees and a lovely river stream. Excuse me.
You're doing
Not
well.
to this.
No, you're doing well.
Just runs. So over this time, I've watched council provide infrastructure, and it has been amazing because we had no toilets, we had no rubbish bins, we had nothing. And I was always collecting rubbish off the beach. I found toilet paper in the bushes. And over time, the council saw that the numbers were increasing. And of course, the numbers are increasing because it's a natural, beautiful beach that you can't access anywhere else. Well, you have to walk to them.
Yeah.
This you can drive to. So over time, council came in, put a toilet in. They came in and put rubbish bins in. We now have 2 amazing toilets there. They're beautiful. They're cleaned every day. We have rubbish bins at what I call Sailors. We now have a car park at Tairua-Pauanui Road, thanks to the council as well. We have a rubbish bin there. The beach is generally clean. We're having a lot more people. We have bollards put in, so that's stopping the cars going down. We have tables for people to sit, the lawns are mowed. So the council have actually done an amazing job, and I want to thank you all for that, because as the people have grown, the infrastructure has grown to actually provide for these people. And we all know that at peak times, anniversary weekend, Christmas time, Easter, our numbers bulge. And it is hard to cope with those numbers. So it's peak numbers, but then they drop away to nothing. So there's only so much you can do to a place that is absolutely beautiful and has natural character without overwhelming it and turning it into a city park with concrete paths down to the beach. What the council have done is provided infrastructure but kept the natural character. So I thank you for that. Secondly, in terms of the kiwi, when I first arrived 28 years ago, I had 1 kiwi a year. Now at my property, I hear kiwi every single night. I saw a kiwi on my drive with my daughters. It was probably one of those experiences we will never ever forget. Now, the people have increased, the dogs have increased, and the kiwi have increased. The reason for this is thanks to the Whanua Care Group and the pest management.
Yeah.
But people understand that and keep their dogs under control, and we all kiwi train. Yes, I'm a dog trainer. Also, Sailors Grove is unique that it is the only dog beach in the Coromandel that is open all year round. So this puts a lot of pressure on Sailors Grove, a lot of pressure. At Christmas time, we have people from Hotwater Beach all over the place coming here. So what I would like to do today is plant a seed, not to shut Te Karo down for dogs, but to look at other areas and to look at managing it. So humans and dogs and Kiwi cohabitate together. Dogs have been with us for 11,000 years. They are, in particularly Tairua, a retired community where they have their dogs as their family. They pick them up in the morning and they take them for a walk. The dogs take the owners for a walk. They keep them exercising. As we all know, when we get older, it's harder to get out there. Also, dogs have unconditional love. So I know this is not part of the dog advisor, I think, in 2 years. So I'd like to plant the seed to look at how we can open up other areas and try and stop the pressure of putting it on Te Karo Bay. So, and there has been raised about the dotterel. Te Karo Bay is not a dotterel breeding ground. It's not listed as one. It has cliffs going down. So there's nowhere for them to actually really, you get the odd one coming there. So it's not a dotterel breeding ground. I have seen Te Karo Bay ripped of sand, rocks, nothing else. So in fact, less people will come, dotterel definitely won't be here when that happens. With the rising tides, I used to picnic with my kids on a piece of grass, it's gone. So climate change, water rising, there's a whole lot of things changing. So we may have less people coming to Te Karo Bay. But I want to thank you today for your time and thank you for opening up so that we all can come and speak and we have a diversity of views heard.
Thank you.
That was excellent. Thank you, Kerry.
Some beaches have in peak times when lots of people are there, have a dog off the beach from 9 a.m. through to 5 p.m. or something, whatever it is.
Yes.
Would that be helpful?
Yes, I think that's a good. What I'm saying though is there's no beach where people can come. I met a guy on the beach on Saturday with his family. His dog was his first child. He had 2 young kids. There's nowhere for people to go to actually walk their dogs like Te Karo Bay. So I appreciate in dotterel breeding grounds and places like that where it's completely slammed that they have those times. But I would like to keep it open and to have more places open because there's so many places closing down, all the dog reserves and everything. You can't walk your dog. It's actually really important that people and dogs actually exercise and have places. And the joy of people being in those places is so key at the moment to all of our mental health.
Yeah.
And that's why Te Karo is special. There's no houses. They come here, there's the sea, the beautiful Whitianga, and everyone goes, oh,
Do you think signage and education are the way to go?
yes, I do. And that's a very good point. Thank you very much. I would like to see the Te Karo Bay to Otara Bay stay open for dogs, under control and Kiwi trained. We still have dogs going over there. As I said, I saw a Kiwi on our drive and I hear them calling on that reserve. So if we educate people and keep it open and provide a place that we can all cohabitate together, I think that's the answer. It's the same as fires. You know, you have to have the signs up for fires. You have to have, and you can have a sign up telling people how lucky they are and how privileged they are to have their dog on the beach and this beach is open. So please, you know, keep your dog under control. It's about education.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any other questions? There being none, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, wait, I'm saying Elizabeth, it's Christine. That's right. Apologies. So now I'll just, can I have a move of going?
I'll move.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Robin, seconded, that we received the hearing for the submission, page 3. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. So we now move on to the, any items not on the agenda. There being none, any conflicts of interest? And now I move to the minutes for confirmation. So do I have a reader and a seconder for Primary and Cromwell Community Board minutes?
I'll move those.
Move John, seconder, Sally, any discussion? There being none, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. McVeigh Community Board.
I'll move.
Tony, seconder, Terry, thank you. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Tairua-Pauanui.
So
Community
moved.
Board minutes.
I'll second.
And Terry, seconded Gary. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So that's the three lots of minutes we're taking in there. And Tairua-Pauanui, sorry, what one was that? One with Community Board minutes. Terry, seconded Gary. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thames Community Board minutes. Hoover, Martin, second, Sally. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Shoreline Management Plan Governance Committee minutes. Do I have a mover? Tony, seconder, Terry. Thank you, Terry. All those, any discussion? There being none, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thames Primary District Council minutes. Do I have a mover?
I'll move those.
John,
Only one thing, and the second one, the 14th of July, I did attend through the atmosphere. I was present for that meeting.
so attendance required.
28th of June, but I'm included there, but not on the 14th of July one.
Okay.
Just need to get it.
Thank you.
So is this the minutes, are we confirming the minutes for the 28th of June right now? Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Because I did note that we, there's a motion that we accept the members' report, but there's actually no members' reports listed. No problem. We did them, I watched the video. But there's no record, it's just that we accept, we've got a, we've moved them and seconded them, but they're not recorded.
I'll just check what's probably happened, is that there's been some sort of technical.
Sure.
So I'll just check that. Would you like me to perhaps table it?
I didn't hear what you said.
No, clearly, yeah. So it says on the page that we move them, we accept them, but there's actually nothing listed there for us to move and accept. There's no record that any of us spoke. It says that there's a YouTube stamp, so I'm trying to find the page.
Okay,
so it says, YouTube stamp this item, resolve that we receive the members' reports, but then there's actually no content for what we've received.
So this is what we're doing now. So we've moved it seconded with a correction to the record of the minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all those happy with that?
Yep.
All those in favour? Yeah, so it was, that was moved on. Robin, subject to the amendment.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So that moves us now into deliberations on the.
So did we then do the 14th of July as well?
Pardon?
Did we then move and second the 14th of July, accepting those minutes? We did them together, I think.
We did them together.
Okay, cool. That's fine.
So we're now on to the deliberations on the draft Maritime Facilities Bylaw, page 109. So welcome, great, Leslie, and just on to the page. And we have quite a substantial resolution on page 110. So we might just have a discussion first about, is there anything, any particular points you want to raise, Rachel?
Resolution 3 needs a minor correction, and it refers to the edits in Resolution 3, and it needs to read.
Sorry, say that again.
Page 111.
Yes.
Resolution 3, it requests that staff make changes to the draft bylaw as described in Resolution 3. It needs to read 2.
Okay, change the 3 to a 2.
Otherwise, it's one of those.
Yeah, and we get nothing done.
So, do I have a mover? Is there any discussion or do I have a mover?
I haven't discussed it.
Terry?
So, yes, this is a concern that we've had and voiced all the way through is around the boat ramp charges, etc. And you'll notice that recently there's been, the signs have been chainsawed down and pulled out of the ground with tractors. So when they put the QR sign codes up, they'll be gone as well. So I'm telling you that this is going to be an issue that this council should sort out and not leave it to the next council to look into. And it's a locally funded event, and our boat ramps aren't fit for purpose for this. And we're getting charged a $25 increase for nothing, no benefit at all. So there's concern out there, and the boaties, which is our biggest activity on the coast by far, are not happy with what's going on here. And their submissions on the annual plan voice that. And I'm just saying, this is a local event, and I know Mercury Bay's got great assets and the money should go to them, but this is a locally thing that we don't need our boat ramps put into this agenda. It's going to cause utter chaos and a safety concern for officers trying to deal with this. So I'm voicing it now and saying very clearly, we need to think about this.
I support what Terry says.
Thank you, Gary. So are there any?
Just take us out, take our 3.
Are there any, then it no longer becomes a district function, does it?
It's not supposed to be a district funded, it's locally funded.
Yes. So, but they're all.
It's just been ad hoc put together because it was pushed because Mercury Bay were keen to do it. And I'm just saying all the way through, there's been resistance to this to happen. And I'm saying now there's resistance from the boaties to happen, and they're going out there chopping these things down now. And the QR code will come along, so then you'll have to police it, then you'll have to get no revenue. There's other boat ramps they can go to and use without any cost. So this is not going to work. So I'm just saying this board or council needs to sort this out going forward, so the next council doesn't have an issue.
Tony.
More question too. Other than Whakapawa, are there other signs that have been pulled out?
I've heard that there's other signs have been pulled out, yes. I haven't seen them. I haven't seen
one for the Whakapawa
chainsaw down.
Has had their facility upgraded. So, and they went to considerable angst within this chamber to say about what wasn't happening. So there was significant money spent there to upgrade the ramp and the facility and everything around it. And yet someone still saw fit to go and pull our signs out. So, yeah, I'm clear on this stuff. If you provide nothing, you charge nothing, and if you provide.
No, we're charging them for nothing.
And you charge it, so.
There's an electric charge for nothing.
Was out of line. I can understand it from your place.
Yeah, we've got a concern.
So that we've been through this a number of times, and my response is this, that we can't keep providing, we've got some essential infrastructure that we have to provide as a council. That's the must-dos. And this is why I was really pleased that when we went out with a long-term plan, we were very clear about identifying to our communities the must-dos. And then we identified the nice-to-haves so that people knew that there was a cost to including the nice-to-haves. We've got lots of boat ramps. I can see the hands up, so you just give away money. So we've got lots of things we'd love to do, but they fall into the nice-to-haves, and everything costs money. And so the money has to come from somewhere. And if people expect their boat ramps to be upgraded, and I think they should be upgraded, there is a cost to that. And I think that's where the users need to be able to provide a greater proportion of that cost. And this is what this facilities bylaw does, because this creates an actual facility that's usable. And as Tony has, in the experience of Mercury Bay, the ramps have been enhanced. It's through the use of the funds that have been provided by the user pays on top of the district contribution. And so that's why I'm supporting this.
Well,
So hang on, Robin, have your hand up, and then Rachel.
So in the summary of the cover report, you talk about when we made the decisions, and it seems fairly clear to me that we made the decision in March that we needed to review the bylaw, and you've done that. And when I look at the resolutions, I don't see anything there that isn't unreasonable for the purpose of the bylaw, which is to make sure that the facilities are operated in a safe manner. So, separated out the swimming, you've made it much more clear. So from my point of view, I don't think that the charging really comes into the discussion at all about the resolutions. So I just wanted to support you that was read by some of the members, and I'm very happy to support that. And I'm absolutely happy to move that.
Rachel.
On page 114, the first submission point we addressed is regarding the fees, where we confirmed that the fees are set through the annual plan and the long-term plan. And this is about making sure the activities occur appropriately on them so that maintenance costs are minimalised for the ratepayer.
So just to be clear, this bylaw has absolutely nothing to do with fees and charges.
correct. I accept that. I accept that. But I need you to understand that as you say, Your Worship, that these facilities are provided for people to use. And when there's no facilities provided and you're still charging, there's an issue. And I'm just explaining that regularly, that this is the case.
Out of scope of this discussion.
It doesn't matter. It needs to be raised because this has been dragged in.
Any discussion around the
against
action
our
items, please.
It's been.
Order, thank you, Terry. We'll have discussion on the bylaw. The bylaw is the issue right now to be discussed and deliberated on by us as a council. It's the bylaw. So can we have matters that are in scope? And if there's none, do I have a mover?
Yes.
Thank you, Robin. Seconder?
Done.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion on the bylaw? There being none, I'll put the resolutions. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against?
Me,
Would you like your
please.
vote recorded? Thank you, Kieran. Harry. Right, we move on to item final draft Thames and surround spatial plan for public engagement. Want to move on? Page 140, move on, Robert.
Yeah.
Seconder Sally. Thank you, Mitch. Is there any discussion? No discussion?
Sorry.
Mark.
I was just going to say how important I think this is for our long-term planning, how important it is that it's linking with the shoreline management plan work. And so that as time goes on, we're aligned and moving forward in a coordinated fashion. So wanting to acknowledge people's hard work. And I think as a community, many people know about this already. And the fact that we're now going out to consult on this draft, I think is a way forward for us because, as I say, a lot of people are already engaged. And so the feedback you'll get will be even more constructive. So well done.
Yeah, big team effort, Sally. Quite a long process because we did do quite an extensive round of engagement on it already in December. So yeah.
It's a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sally.
Just a question about process, because in the resolution, I know sometimes when we go out for consultation, we include the period of consultation date for the resolution, and that isn't in this resolution. Does it need to be?
So it's not a statutory process.
No, that's fine then.
The dates are in the report, so we're going to run it for about a month.
No, that's cool. If it's not a statutory process, then it doesn't need to be. That's fine. Perfect. Thank you.
We're not following consultation, it's the community feedback.
Okay, sorry.
So, Aileen, welcome.
Just a comment from me that the resource management reforms that are underway that may or may not survive the reform process are going to require spatial planning at a regional level. And one of the benefits of these types of documents and getting them done before those reforms is that there's a solid building block in place. that will go forward into the original process and those reforms. So I think it's an excellent step, and it's future-proofing although it's a non-statutory process, it may form the building block of quite an important statutory process of their course.
Cool.
Excellent, thank you.
And so just importantly, I guess for the organisations that consider and elected members, is that yes, it's been quite a involved process to get to this point, but really the rubber hits the road at the implementation, and so all of that has to be scoped and costed, and it's going to require us to do things a little bit differently from how we've done them in the past, because we're really looking to the future in a way where council takes a more active role in planning for growth and development.
Thank you. So any further discussion? There'll be none, and that case I will put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Awesome, well done, thank you.
Yay.
Annual Dog Control Report 2021 to 22.
Are we not?
343.
We have to
Speed.
Draft speed. The draft speed.
Oh,
169.
I see that. Sorry.
Very clever.
I thought you got to 110k an hour.
Well, you know I like to go fast. Let's not beat around the bush. And I'm telling you, no point in looking at the speed limit because you can't do 100 k's around all those windy bits. I've tried. Anyway, welcome in and thank you. Page 169.
Good morning, all. May I take the report as read?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
So
happy to answer any questions.
thank you. That's great. Martin, are you moving this?
Oh, sorry, have you got questions or we?
Here we are.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. So in there, it talks about gravel roads, but it says that in order to, that it would need a whole review on gravel roads as a separate, separate piece of work. And I just wonder about the reason behind it.
The practicality is gravel road or an unsealed road. If it's adequately maintained, straight and good.
That's great.
You can drive at high speeds on those roads, but it may not necessarily be safe to do so. The speed limits that we've got proposed at the moment are based on the Tairua-Pauanui work that they've done, which has taken the alignment of the roads, the road condition, and also taken average vehicle speeds, taking people's mobile phone data, satellite navigation, to calculate what is an average safe speed for a gravel road. Now, you can do additional work on gravel roads. The issue is it will be fairly extensive. So in this case, it's generally taken across the country to look at the national information that's been provided by Maritime, interpret that locally. Obviously, local knowledge does contribute to the speed management plan, and set speed limits according to that.
Right, and I guess the follow-up question, I guess my thing is, yes, obviously we've got Waterfront as the body to look after the state highways.
Yes.
But as you're saying that on other roads that are unsealed, we will still be waiting on their leads to help with the review of.
No, we're not waiting on their lead. They've already done a considerable amount of work in developing a nationwide map of every public road in New Zealand. As I say, working from data available from mobile phones, satellite navigation, also looking at the geometry, gradients and curves of the road, etc., to determine the actual safe speeds. So that piece of work has already been completed, And we're basically utilising that for development of our speed management plan.
So what happens is we do a speed management plan, we lodge it into the regional speed management plan, which may or may not be accepted in its entirety or in part. And then the Whakatari can decide whether or not it accepts the regional plan. But from that point on, Whakatari has absolute control. We have no say in the matter.
I guess I'm just thinking of this from, when this goes out for consultation. I don't know in what form it will, but in this one, we have, posted speed limit 100k, current mean travel speed 42k, safe and appropriate speed 60. But yet we're saying no change to the speed limit proposed. So we're saying that we are happy with the idea that the speed limit is 40 kilometres over what's considered a safe and appropriate speed. And I know you can say, well, it's up to people to drive to the appropriate speed, but by having 100, particularly people from overseas, may well think, hey, cool, we can drive at 100. They get to the second corner of a gravel road, spin off, and it's all over. So I'm just concerned that there seems an opportunity here for the unsealed roads, but we aren't doing it. I'm still just a little bit.
An opportunity to what?
To review them. Because, I mean, we've got all the information here. I'm just not sure what additional information we would need.
Probably realistic assessment of the facts, given that speed is not the primary reason why for the multiple deaths and accidents.
I think that is what you think.
That's an attention.
That was going to be my question. How many accidents, as reported on the LMC report, and I'm also sitting in a CAS report, are rated to speed in our district?
If we're dealing with fatal accidents, I believe it's approximately 60%.
No. Of all these things, how many? Because there's not one, and these are put in the CAS report, in our district, there is not one reported accident related to speed, and in the LMC report, there's not one reference to speed. So I pick up on the thing is, irrespective of the road surface, people will drive the conditions, most people, I'll take some out of it. So what I'm saying is to back that up, to say we have empirical data that shows that 80%, 60%, 20%, 10% of all accidents on the Coromandel Peninsula are related to speed. From what I've got, the answer to that is that isn't.
Right.
It's drugs, alcohol, inattention, text, errors of judgment, crossing the centre line,
Sleepiness.
all of those things. And speed, well, speed is not mentioned in that report. And that one there I'm sitting on, I've only got 2 accidents in the whole of Waikato related to speed.
Sorry, I'm confused. Are you saying there's no accidents caused by speed?
You did say that.
Well, we've got the data given to us to make this decision. And none of those accidents on the report.
But all those factors that you mentioned, the inattention, the fatigue, the lack of judgment of that, are compounded if people are going at a higher speed.
He's nailed it.
I'm just astonished.
It's absolutely, you're absolutely right. And
Nailed it.
I do a lot of my work is driving and speed, and the advertising they have, it's not a target.
No.
The lower target you have, the better. Well, I just cannot believe we could even contemplate having a 100k sign up with the recommended safe speed is 60. 60 is the sign that should go up.
And I see visitors who see a sign in their road saying 100, and they think, right, that's completely safe for 100. They see a sealed road, unsealed road here and say 100. They will assume that it's safe to go at 100.
In countries where safe speed is 275 kilometres an hour.
Let's just, can we perhaps just stick to the topic at hand, and everyone's got individual opinions, and you are being facetious. We have a police person here, ex-retired. Could you just...
I'd like...
My comment is, then I'm not going to put it on to you, John, is that this is about reducing harm.
Correct.
We know that if people do silly things, as Martin's already said, that less speed is causes
kill.
less harm.
Yep.
And if you all want to have enough beds in your hospital for your aging conditions, we need to reduce the amount of trauma in our already stretched health service. Thank you very much.
So, Sally, would you like to move the resolution?
I've got some questions though.
It's not a discussion.
So did you say, sorry, Sam, did you say this is not for discussion?
No, I said it doesn't stop the discussion.
Stop the discussion on the speed management plan.
No, she doesn't.
No.
Does not stop the discussion.
It does not stop.
Yeah.
That's what she
Sorry,
says.
I thought you wanted to stop.
No.
Okay. Who's next?
For the hearing aids.
Let's just cut the facetiousness and get on with the work at hand, which is really important.
The point though that is the way in which the facts data are being used.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you feel like your question has been answered satisfactorily about, and I'll move on with my several. So it just to go into fast forwarding through to the actual questions that you want to ask. You know, the first thing that I read when I on page 175, the first question that you're going to be asking is, do you live in the area? Do you are you a regular visitor? Do you have a full car driver's license? Now, this plan is going to affect pedestrians, it's going to affect everybody. Is that question absolutely necessary to be asking?
The questions that we're using have been developed across the region. The idea behind that is because this is going to feed into a regional speed management plan. That we collect similar or same data from each district so it will be directly compared. So it's in a district recommendation.
Oh, okay. So if people are unable to answer that question or choose not to, they'll still be able to participate in the rest of the questions?
Yes, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Question number 2 for you. On page 184, we've got this great table of crash type. And then there are some boxes that are different colours to others, and I just can't work out because there's nothing in the thing that tells you why one box is white, why one box is sort of light yellow, and why one box is orange.
This is in the
Page 184, and there's a table called crash type.
This is in the LMC report.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's some red boxes too.
It's just,
Thank you. Yeah, that one. Perhaps my cup of tea wasn't helping me as much as it should have, but I couldn't understand why some of the boxes. I should have had a gin maybe.
Yeah, gin, correct.
I had the world's leading gin from.
That's right.
Oh, but no, but I just couldn't understand why some of those boxes were different colours. Can you shed any light on that? And okay, thank you. That's fine.
Not the biggest number.
It's not the biggest number. It's not the smallest number. And it doesn't make a pretty pattern no matter how hard you squint at it.
No, I will have to.
Okay, cool bananas. No, wait, one more question. Bear with me. Well, you know, pays to be interested. So again, with the LMC, and I appreciate that you might have to get back to me on this, on page 186 of that report, they're talking about crash statistics. And they say to date in 2020, there have been 3 serious, 6 minor, etc. But, you know, we're actually 2 years past that, and I just wonder why that data is missing from our crash statistics.
Right. The reason for this is that we were aware the legislation was intended to come into effect in 2021.
Yeah.
So we prepared a report in advance for that date. That date was delayed through central government having to respond to COVID, came through to 2022.
Okay.
The intention is that in the final draft of this report, we will update all data at that time.
Thank you.
okay, Terry. Oh, sorry, then Tony.
Yep, so Ned, Ed, the information you provide to Waka Kotahi and format sent off to them on the ideas that you think about speed limit, is that right? Or have they just come to you and said, this is what we think?
At the moment, they've basically taken the data that's available to them, put it into a national database and provided it to us.
Right.
We've then done a review of that data to see if we think it's reasonable.
Yeah.
And this forms the basis of the draft speed management plan that we've got at the moment.
Right. So when you go to consultation, public, and their voice is heard, how will that come back through council to you to repackage and go back to them?
That is the process, yes. It will come back to us. We will then review the public consultation, look at any additional requests potentially for further reductions of speed limits or keeping the speed limits as they are. That will then be reported back to council, then has to go to the regional council for review and consolidation into a regional speed management plan. That then gets submitted to the central office of Maritime. We do a final review nationally, and then any changes to the speed limit are then included into their speed limit register.
Right, so I'm just wondering about the voice from the communities, how much grunt it's going to have to get through those stages. So do you feel what?
There is the engagement process that we're proposing at the moment. That would be the first stage. The regional council then have a second stage where they have to undertake engagement with iwi and a further step of public consultation. Following that, it then goes to the Waterfront. Now, there will potentially be people who request speed limits outside their individual properties. That is not something that we can actively promote. So it's likely the case that an individual property in the unsealed road will get a 30k speed limit because someone will ask for it. But if a community group, a ratepayers group, requests a speed limit change in their local area, aware of requests already landing on my desk for such things, then they will be considered.
So you can still put a submission.
But the group things about anything outside your own property.
It's like everything else. You have more voices, a quiet can be heard better than a single voice.
So if I've missed it, my apologies, what's the time frame? So like, for example, this street here with the schools, it's potentially very useful to have a slower speed. That could be a couple of years by the sound of it. What?
The time frame for the introduction of speed limits at schools could be up to 2027. But we've actually already preempted this process by introducing this interim speed management plan. We already have funding for speed management already in our LTD for these 3 financial years. So we are already looking at how we can reduce speeds around schools in advance of the due legal date where we need to introduce it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So Tony and Gary. Tony?
This is, because I'm not going to be around, but as a comment, so I fully support reduced speeds around schools and places of hazard. But keep in the back of your minds that when you reduce the speed limits, you potentially reduce the quality of roads. So the Waikato Expressway, 110 kilometres an hour. Why? Because there's about 2.5 metres of pavement, noise, drainage, traction, and a whole lot of things come into it. And so safe to drive at that, and you get that road. Go and change the speed to 80 kilometres an hour. You need a different standard for the road and what you can carry on it. So if you take the vehicles, you can travel over here at 40 tonne and up to 80 tonne. Just be mindful that, so I'm not a skeptic or in any shape or form, but from an NZTA point of view, it's going to be cheaper to run the roads at 40 kilometres an hour than 110 because you need lesser quality roads. And if that's what you want to drive on, be mindful that could be an unintended outcome of being too zealous. So I agree.
So yes,
reducing harm on all those things, we should do it, but it isn't. What you drive on is by and large the result of what the speed limit is.
so you not only reduce the standard, the quality of the road, but you reduce the funding potentially as well.
Yeah.
So Gary.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because people building roads want to build them to a decent standard, but I think we need to look to history. I'll give you a little wee history lesson. A lot of you weren't around for the oil crisis in the early 70s.
I was.
In the early
More than
70s,
no.
we had carless days and the speed limit was reduced. The top speed you could drive was 80 k's an hour. And we had the greatest reductions of deaths on the road we've ever had. So if we want to be proactive as a council, I think we just put those limits right down. Tough luck. We want to have safe and happy people on the area.
Well, we have a healthy debate during deliberations after submissions close. We just got to get this out to public consultation first. So, Martin.
Sorry, you look like you were putting your hand up before when councillor Fox.
I may make a correction. The speed limit has no relevance to maintenance standards. Maintenance standards will remain whatever the speed limit is.
Will it affect the percentage of Whakatari funding we receive for our various road maintenance works?
We're not aware of any effect now or planned for maintenance funding as a result of this.
You're saying it's no effect
No effect.
at the moment?
At the moment, not aware.
Martin.
So is it appropriate for us at this point to discuss some of the individual streets?
The idea is to go out for public consultation and then various community boards can look at what's happening in their areas and put in what they want to see happening within their areas in a submission to council.
But if we see something that we think would affect that, the consultation, if there's something that doesn't look right, we should raise that now though?
So if you're saying that you.
I'm not saying one's 30 and one's 40, it's just.
Have you got some concerns about the actual document, wording in the document itself that's going out for public consultation?
Yes.
Okay, what is it?
So on page 122, talking about Tairua Road. And it says it wouldn't be considered the southern section, safe and appropriate speed of 40, implementing the speed limit is not considered appropriate as the speed limit on the adjacent Tairua Valley Road is 80. But then a little bit either that way or that way in the document, it talks about Tairua Valley. Does that have in it?
Yeah.
It's come on. I know it's quite detailed, but.
What I would say at the moment is this is every speed limit that we put on the road has to be related to the speed limit on the adjacent road. So you can't have rapid changes saying from 100 k down to 30 k. It has to be staged.
Yeah.
So this generates issues which we will need to address. But the intention is to get public consultation on these so that we can identify any other issues before we draft the final plan.
Okay, and also that's a related question. It's, the idea is that we're not, in say one of our main streets at 10, going to be going 50, 30, 50, 30 all the way down the road. That will be a reasonable section to make sure that we're not having that. We're going, oh no, what speed limit am I in this block? We've got to have signs everywhere.
A variable speed limit like that or rapid changes of speed limit has been proven to confuse drivers, does create a road safety hazard.
Yeah.
And it's not our intention to do that.
Okay, so we'll attempt to avoid that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
When Martin said Tairua Road, I got quite excited because I thought he was going to raise the inconsistency about Low Ave, which is where Tairua School is. They recommend it being the 30 k, fantastic, very safe for the children. But Tairua Road, which Low Ave comes off, is recommended as staying as it is. And so that's very inconsistent when you look at what you're trying to do in Monotari, where the whole suburb is just going to be slow. So I wondered if that needs addressing as well, because I think that will be raised by the community.
Again, if it's raised by the community, it will be considered.
So we don't want to change it now before we send it out?
So this is, okay. So can you just recap what we're doing here? So I thought this was a draft. This was going out for public consultation, but it's not going out for public consultation. What is it?
It is going out to public engagement.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going out for public consultation, so that all of the detail around clarifying and changing speed limits, because this is what I thought was going to be your opportunity to address the areas that I know you've got concerns about in Thames, and likewise for all the other wards. That is yet to come, and that gives you the chance to take some time to actually ask.
Okay, so we're happy with an internal consistency within the consultation document.
Pardon?
We're happy with an internal inconsistency within the document. That's fine. That's good.
So through the chair.
We'll put in a submission.
Through the chair, I would say that's not an inconsistency. Parawai Road is a feeder that
Yeah.
goes up to Kauranga Valley.
Okay.
So Monotari is of all residential streets. So I think the example's probably slightly different. I understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
But if you think about the, Parawai Road, it feeds up to a lot of different areas. So it's not the same, as Monotari.
Because I believe that we're going to need a considerable period to actually discuss the changes that you'd all like to see made for each of the wards. And so I don't see that happening now prior to going out with public consultation on it, because I think you'll need time to fully assess all of your roads within your area and take in line with the many questions that I know you've got. So, yeah. Terry, did you have something else?
I didn't have put my hand up, no.
So Martin?
So I've just got one question, not about anything specific there, but presumably community boards will submit on this.
Of course.
That's
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, Sandra. Okay.
Well, okay, then can I move it?
So I'm just, the resolution, it says receive and then it says, so I'm just a bit, I'm just a bit intrigued by the receives and accepts. So.
Can we put the resolution up on the board?
Pardon? The resolution, I'm wondering why we're not just saying approves to go for consultation with the draft speed management plan.
My understanding was that the draft speed management plan needs to be accepted by council to form part of the consultation documents.
Yeah, just different wording to what I've ever seen in terms of the way in which a resolution around public consultation is done, but okay, it's sort of draft.
To accept it or receive it?
Both.
Sorry,
Accept it as it is? I think
Well, we're going to receive it and we accept it and then it goes out for consultation. It comes back, you have a hearing and
we're not buying into it.
Excuse me, Aileen is speaking.
In the previous line, we would adopt full consultation.
Yeah, I like that idea because agreed implies that we agree with everything in it. And that could,
It's a good idea.
It's adopted.
that's. So what's the suggestion?
Adopts to undertaking public engagement. So I don't think we need resolution 1. Sorry, I don't think we need resolution 2. So receives the draft speed management plan, adopts to undertaking public engagement. So we'll go with those two.
Adopts for the purpose of undertaking public engagement.
Yes, adopt to the
For the purpose of, nice.
You're not stuck with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Adopts for the purpose of undertaking public engagement. So on those two premises, do I have a mover?
I'll move.
Oh,
Two and three are combined.
Resolutions, but 1 and 2. Yeah. Well, so.
Two's gone.
Number 2's gone. It's just been slightly reworded within.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Have we renamed 3 to 2?
Everybody happy with that? And I fully expect that the community boards will get a plethora of submissions. And I fully expect the community boards absolutely to take part, because this is really important. If you miss this opportunity, you may not get another one. The government is taking full responsibility for setting speed limits from here on out. So heartily support and endorse everybody doing it.
Challenging time just before the election, in terms
it is.
of times and meetings. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Right now, animal dog control report 2021. Thank you, Ian. Do you keep the animal control report? Oh, all of you, okay, we're gonna see this, sorry, Tony and Sally. All those in favour?
Aye. Aye.
Against? Thank you, Gary. Thanks, Ian, well done.
Can I just remind you that we're 10 minutes over having morning tea?
I like that, man.
Let's do this and then get on to that.
Probably.
Because look, it's just a report, we take it as read, we can just move on.
Good luck with that.
I know, somebody might have some questions.
Good morning, everyone. Councillor Sandra.
So do we have any questions? Alice and Brian?
My question is, this looks like a fairly standard year for us, that business is going okay, we still have our issues. And so my question is that true? And have you got adequate resource to look after this important piece of our work, because it's quite public? Yeah.
Thanks, Sally. Through the chair, it has been reasonably consistent. So I've gone and had a look at the last couple of years, reasonably consistent with how we're going. So I believe we've got enough resource and we've just been keeping up with demand in our RMs.
Cool.
Which from my experience, it's been quite quiet on the dog control front, really. So, your excellent work.
I think from a community perspective, poverty really affects people's ability to look after dogs in terms of say spaying or neutering. And so where I live, I sometimes see a cluster of puppies that if they had more resource, they potentially mightn't choose to have. So I think the state of our community affects this at times too.
Just bearing in mind, Councillor Gottlieb's desire to have morning tea soon, is it appropriate, you could do like a 1 or 2 sentence reply to the concerns we had earlier about power of the day? Is that appropriate to do at this point while we've got you guys?
I had a very quick look listening back, and the dog control bylaw is coming too soon for review. That would be the appropriate place to.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Cool.
Thank you.
I'll move the
resolution. Sally, seconded. Robin, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yes, carried. From down, and thank you to you and the rest of the staff for the great work that they do in that regard.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Order of business, the Whitianga Esplanade Waterfront Development, page 347, and there's been an adjustment to the resolutions, and so I'm quite happy to move the resolution. And the first one is, since there's been some changes, that we receive the Whitianga Esplanade Waterfront Redevelopment report dated 13 July.
Yes.
That council supports the Whitianga Esplanade Waterfront Redevelopment project as a local project for Mercury Bay Ward.
Locally funded or local?
And then
All was locally funded,
That's what I mean, so just.
all funded, locally funded. They always have been.
I know, that's why I'm just being clear.
Don't have to tell me.
I said it's a local project.
Yes.
Okay, to be locally funded. Thank you. And then the third one is that number 6, which is we approve the out of cycle budget. And then note that council notes all of the other objectives.
Yep.
etc.
So Sandra, does that dispense with resolution 3, which has?
That's notes, we're noting all of those.
Can we have that on the screen? Can we have the resolution?
Yeah. Deals just working on that. So we really appreciate our new CE's input into clarifying and streamlining those recommendations, because what's important to the Metro Bay Ward is that there is clarity at the council table around the intent of the Metro Bay Ward to continue with this project and do it in a really well-rounded and concise way. Martin?
Would we be removing step 8 as resolution 8 as well?
Yeah, all of the rest of the rest.
All the rest, okay.
Are noted.
Noted.
So we're only doing 1, modification of 2, and we're doing number 6. Yes.
So just one other slight amendment under number 5 to, which is a noted thing. There's words at the end, it says one Whitianga Marine Society appointee. That's in the wrong place, so those words need to be deleted as well.
What do you want deleted?
The words right at the end of that, number 5, one Whitianga Marina Society appointee, it's in the wrong place there. That's actually under number 4.
Okay. So I'll be, in turn, and because we know all the rest, because wanting to set up a subgroup and all of that is, and the delegations, those can be done within the community boards. Currently, you can do that yourselves. Right, so we have that up there.
Hang on, let's.
Hang on, I just want to make sure.
Do you have a size 18? Oh, no, that's all good. That's good.
Number 6 should be approved.
Does that need to go up further than just in the notes?
Yeah, that should
become part of the.
3.
Right, receives, supports, is it locally funded project for Metro Bay? That's excellent. Notes, supports, notes, the council notes. It's not that council continue to progress. So you don't actually need that because it's notes that the Mercury Bay Ward would continue to investigate.
I'm just wondering about all the A, B, C, D.
Do we really need that?
I mean, shouldn't that refer to the plan or the project plan or whatever for that? Because that otherwise it ties us to that and people going, oh, a separate public plan beachfront area, and then we go, well, actually no, that. I don't know. It just seems like to keep detail in that.
Do we really need all the rest of that stuff in there?
The only reason it's all there is I'm trying really hard to retire.
But you've got a plan.
I want to
in
get
place at Beaver
future place forward into one place. So that's why it's there. But your worship, if you want to take all that out, that's fine as well. It's not. I can certainly make sure that the full picture gets contained to my system anyway. So if you do want to take all of the noted stuff out completely, then you could do that because it's sitting in the community board minutes anyway.
Yeah, it is. So could you scroll it up, please, Aliana? I'm just trying to see. Yeah, that's it. Okay, number 3, you take out.
No, that can all go.
Yes.
Take everything out.
Take everything out except the out of budget.
Correct.
Yeah.
Step number 6, take everything else out. Otherwise it gets too confusing because now we're going to have to start relitigating it all anyway.
Yeah.
To get that wording concise.
And our resolution shouldn't be the plan of what we're going to do.
No, that's all theirs. So
We can give us some plans for the boat you arranged if you need them.
So take that all out. So it means that the projects are on the books. You have a plan with the Mercury Bay Board. You've got funding aside. Any outside the budget that you have to come back to council with anyway. You've got. There's nothing to stop that. Any changes being disclosed in any plan period. So we're just having number 6. The rest of it.
So number 6 becomes number 3.
Take out 3 all the way down to number 6, please. Leave in 6.
Yep.
So
Those default six up into three.
Correct.
Just these.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Right, are we all good now?
So has that been there? We just have a moment to read them?
Excellent, so all the rest is out, we just got those three resolutions, I've moved it, Tony seconded, is there any further discussion? Excellent, well done, guys, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Happy retirement, Alan.
Excellent. You happy now, Alan? Can you retire? Happy man?
You all seem to get one.
Rightio, we can now go to 376. Capital expenditure carry forward budget requests.
I second it.
Oh, these mostly carry forwards.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay,
and there's explanations under each
Yeah.
one.
yeah, no, that's awesome. Okay, do I have a mover?
I'll move.
Thank you, Tony. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
John, who's actually speaking to this one first? Hello. Our DCE in support of our CE. Good man.
Yes, so through the chair, good morning, everyone. I thought it might be one of those reports where I get to get away without saying anything. So, but anyway, the report is pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go all over the detail. Everyone knows the challenges we've had associated with COVID and the supply chain disruptions and the conflict disruptions and all those types of things. There are a lot of carry forwards. I work with this, with Andrew Bowden on this. Andrew Bowden is well related, but I work through it with Karen Berger, who is our finance service partner in the team. We've gone through this in quite there's some of them that we've that I've moved out and carry over appropriate. So these are the ones that we do need to carry forward. So, and I'm happy to take any questions on it.
Tony.
My question would be our capacity to deliver, given that we're adding these on top of what we have scheduled for this financial year. So can we deliver them? If we can, great. If we can't, what are we going to take out so that they can be delivered?
Yeah, through the chair, that is a good question. That's always the challenge that we have. You know, we're struggling at the moment to try and recruit for project managers. They're very sought after. There's so much work going on in the country, and a lot of people paying a lot more money than what Thames Crown District Council and our customers can pay, really. So we're doing what we can with that. I believe we can deliver it, but it is a real challenge at the moment. Things that previously we didn't have to contend with, we're really having to struggle away with, I suppose. So it's hard to know. There will be some changes during the financial year, I've got no doubt. But again, this is around, we obviously just try and do what we think we can deliver, but we're also trying to deliver all those commitments that we've got with our communities. You know, all these things that the communities and the community board are keen to see delivered. We've got to do our best to really try and deliver this.
Do we actually need, so I've got a question, do we actually need a further resolution to recommend reassessment where appropriate? So for example, hypothetically, if we had a road that required to be done for legal purposes, but was out of cycle, whether the budget, because of the carry forwards, could have been prioritised ahead of these due to the legal nature and the risk. And so I just wonder if, I'm sure that you've got some idea what I'm talking about. And so,
Have you? What's this?
and so I just wonder if there's, we shouldn't be giving put in another resolution to recommend a reassessment and prioritise where necessary.
So through the chair, we do that anyway through the year.
Okay.
So for this year, I might be a bit slow this morning. I'm not sure if I've fully followed your train.
What's the clarity around where this?
No, well, it'll come later.
So for any out of cycle budget requests, I'm talking about.
Yeah, right, okay.
Can I just ask a question?
Gary, could you just hold, or just want to see what Bruce wants to say?
So the only thing I
sorry.
Also add in there through the chair is that resolution 3 delegates those changes to me.
Right.
So it's in there that group operations can approve changes as a result of finalising the year end, because obviously we're still trying to close off the actual final year end, so we don't know quite what the final position will be.
I'm actually alluding to an out of cycle request in public expenditure. Right, Gary.
Bruce, I was looking at the second to last on page 377. Renewals Island View, public convenience. I see the convenience have gone. When, with summer coming, when do we expect them to be replaced?
So through the chair, I don't know detail exactly on that project area, but I know that our public conveniences, we've had about 3 or 4, and there's a couple on the tail that we're doing. Those should be arriving any day now. So those, yeah, they're definitely happening. Yeah, and they all come from one supplier, those toilet units. And so
Is that where the floor padding is? Is there
a pad that's been made?
It looks very small for toilets.
Yeah.
You can hold hands or something.
Thank you.
Let's pay for
Right. So what you're saying, if I'm summing up, is that this will be worked in relationship to our capital works for this plan. You will be working as hard as you possibly can to get that across the line, and the council will get regular updates about how we're going with that and how you and your team are prioritising.
Correct, and if any changes and responses that we need to make through the year, we'll make those as we always do and make sure the members updated on.
Yeah. And just Bruce, is the no carry forward on the stormwater for Wangata, has that all been spent this year, is it?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just one point, and it does concern me, carrying forward, no one likes doing that, Bruce, obviously. But also, nothing is cheaper to do than what it is today. And carrying these forward is actually going to erode our financial ability to possibly pay for some of these things. So maybe that needs to be taken into the reassessment whenever you do it, I just wonder about the affordability in 12 months' time compared to today or yesterday, and the impact that's going to have on us delivering those.
Yep, you're right, that it's only going to be more expensive.
Yeah, it is.
Supply chains happening.
It's important that we keep going to try to deliver the things that we're committed to the community that we're going to deliver. So.
Yeah.
Okay. There being no further discussion, I've got the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes, Gary, thank you. Page 386 is all about the delegations and the suggested resolution. I don't know if any. Thank you, Alison. Anybody have any queries? There'll be none till I have a mover.
I'll move it.
Thank you, John, second of Martin. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. It's carried. Well done, Alison. Excellent work. Thank you. Right. We now have
Chief Executive report.
Chief Executive report.
What page is that?
47.
So while we're doing that, I've got a report from Murray that I want to share with everybody. So I'll just hand those around. And this is a combined report from Murray and Tony. I'm probably gone with agreement as well.
Definitely. Haven't seen it yet, but. Okay.
So you're talking to this, Bruce?
So yes, so through the chair, I will give you a quick run through on the chief executive report. I'm not sure about Murray's report, but anyway. So yes, so chief executive, we've got a few updates there. So finance, obviously we're in a better position than we thought we'd be for our interim position. So as we just mentioned, we're still trying to close off the final accounts end of the year. There's a couple of points there noted about why we're in a more favourable position. Some of it's more favourable, but it's not what I'd term positive because we only have enough to deliver some of the things. So it's all those kind of things not ideal, but that's put us in a favourable position starting the year. 3 Waters, actually that's really starting to ramp up now. We've got a number of things happening in that space. More forums are starting with the National Competition Unit. It's really starting to get some legs. They're starting to advertise for the chief exec roles for the 4 entities across the country. The staff portal side of things, which I haven't touched on here, is actually starting to open now. We're starting to actually get those kind of things moving around, directly affecting staff in Three Waters and also the staff that do a portion of their role as Three Waters. So there's more and more conversations starting to be firmed up in that way. It is a challenge, as you know, everyone's heard the analogies about, building a plane as it's being flown. In some regards, it's quite like this analogy. In some regards, we're flying the plane and dismantling it and building another plane. So we have to keep producing water and keep that going whilst we transition across. So we're getting more and more engaged in that space, and a little bit more time, I'll be able to get a lot more engaged in that space as well. Future local government reform, there was a lot of stuff in local government NZ, which Mary's little report might touch on favourably or otherwise. I'm not sure, so I haven't read it yet.
Mr. Members.
Yes, yeah. So, but anyway, so there's lots of discussion. It is a challenging time across local government. There's so much change, so much reform happening, and at such a fast pace. But you guys are all aware of that, so yeah, probably let's talk about that. A couple of updates on projects in there that Lorna and her team have got in there around Sugarloaf and around Koku Marie, and a little bit of information on delegations as well as all the financial information. So happy to take any questions and go from there.
Any questions, Terry?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate. I thought it was a very good report and a pre-election report. I'm very impressed with the first paragraph in summarising where we are. I think that was really important. When we look back to the last one and it gave us a clear picture where we stand today. It's very powerful. So well done. You'll get a lot of positive feedback from that.
Oh, you're talking about the pre-election report?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Gary.
Did you receive something from, I forget what they call themselves, they set the payment ratio or whatever it is?
On remuneration?
Yeah, and I saw something.
Fran Wild.
Fran Wild, yeah. That came from one who's taken over from Fran Wild about getting council feedback on remuneration for people travelling and that. Has that been considered?
Yes, I think that came in and got distributed to councillors from.
Yeah, but nothing's happening on.
Not unless we haven't had any feedback from councillors that I'm aware of. I haven't heard anything coming back. I'm happy to take any feedback from councillors. I think that was the intention, was to get some comment.
Well, I think the thing was that it related to people like myself who are travelling.
Yes.
And they suggested a form of dealing with that. Because you're just not going to have people, I can afford it, people who can't afford it just won't even bother because it's too much time and cost for them to do it. And that's what that's about. So are we meant to be responding to them?
Yes, I think we were supposed to be trying to get some feedback from our elected members and then provide that feedback.
You can respond
directly. I'm pretty sure that the email said to respond directly to that email, so we don't need a council response.
Yeah.
It says in the email to respond directly to that email.
Oh, was it to respond directly?
Yes.
Not for the council?
No.
Okay, that's all right.
They want to get feedback, see what people's experiences are. Right. So by all means.
That's all right. Okay. I think I'm probably the only one.
But you've not been the only one in the history of this organisation, so it is relevant.
Okay, are there any further questions of Bruce?
I'm happy to move it.
Hello?
I'm happy to move it.
Move it, Terry, seconded.
Yes, yeah.
Seconded, Tony, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes, carried. And we're now on to members' reports. Unless, of course, Aileen, you wanted to pop in, so. Give you a 24-hour impression.
Fantastic meeting. I'm just really impressed with the intelligence of the debate. That's awesome.
Thank you. Excellent. Well done, Jen. Okay, so now members' reports, and I'd like to firstly, just in Murray's absence, just table this report on local government. I think the verbal recounting was probably a lot more negative of it than I think he's been quite kind in his report, to be quite frank. So firstly, we'll start with you, Tony.
Oh, good. Thanks. Look, we've just come out of a round of community meetings, so Mercury Bay North and Mercury Bay South. Some interesting things out of that from South, and that is control of pest weeds and stuff in waterways. So take those lakes at Pirangi, and there's a carp. Now, before anyone thinks it's another koi carp, it's not. It's a quite separate species of carp. They're sterile, and they stick these things into waterways, and they keep them clean. And let's say for us, 8,000 a year for a person, potentially 20 or 30 or 40,000 will spend nothing and have the consequence of dead animals and stench. So that will probably come to us, and I won't be around, but I'll just say it's well worth having a look at. And the science behind it is fantastic, and the examples are being used, I believe, in Waterfront, I believe some and elsewhere. So when that turns up, the dark skies funding, we've had Alistair here, and so from our community, support that 100%, and I personally support that being substantiated in the district plan and other things, because there will be an awful lot of benefits downstream once we get that dark sky status, and this telescope is only but one of those things. And already the communications on an international level, it's not local. One of the other things that we have, and I believe other people have, is the ever-increasing wish to have security cameras, to see who comes in and comes out of your town, and because for most of us, it's only one way in and one way out. And where we have assets that we have cameras around them, so when things get damaged, we can actually deal with it. Yeah, for me, it's pointless putting something there and just thinking no one's going to play with it. Or you just accept someone's going to wreck it for a few months, for a few years, we'll pay the bills. So I personally am in the area of security cameras. We heard from the folk at Matarangi, particularly about the dune planting, and thanks to the help they're getting from us, the regional council and other authorities. But they point to the significant effect, the impact and improvement on dune planting in Matarangi and Pedo Bay, and they make reference to others in our district. So I come from concrete and bricks to soft as a preference. So that was interesting coming out of that. The shoreline management program, we had that meeting here, and that was pretty much endorsed what came out of that. But the spatial plan that Thames have got, for me, understanding a fair bit about what's going on at space, Mercury Bay needs to go and get a spatial plan, because after Thames goes underwater, Whitianga is the next place. And one of the other things that came out, and it also came out, one of the things through the LGNZ conference, was that the adaptation. So if we decide you're going to have to move the floor up or shift your house or move it backwards or whatever, the process to be able to do that has to be made simple. So I just implore those who are here in October to have that in the back of their head, because the thing that frustrates anyone is the bureaucracy you've got to get through to do the smallest bloody thing in our local government. We need to have some way, if you're going to do it, it's a template, and get on and do it, and you don't incur $50,000 or $60,000 for the lawyers to go and do what you want to do. Yeah. So that was that. So I was also at the local government conference, and if you've got a moment, what I got out of this is what will be the role of local government. So I'm very disappointed that this wasn't part of an agenda to discuss in a wider forum. But for me, what came out of that, there will be a move to more a community focus in local government. This is management from the bottom up. Funding is a major issue. So the point that we've made in this chamber a number of times was made there, that the current rating model is unsustainable, and there's going to be something else. And of course, they raised, we've heard, that only 10% of the total tax taken in this country ends up in local government, and yet we have to pick up most of the social stuff that goes around. I think it's done. And there was one quote that came out of that, and I thought, I just wrote this down. Change requires hindsight, insight, and foresight. And I thought of three more potent words. In terms of common themes, I've been there's general distrust of government and local government, no matter where you go, and probably with pretty good reason. Change needs to come from the bottom up, because those are the practitioners, other people that see it. The supplement environment was waste minimisation. Households need to take responsibility and have their own strategy. So you can't load this onto one group. We've all got a role to play. And from an economics point of view, we need to understand that, because the one thing that came out, if it costs more to achieve an outcome than what the benefit is, probably you shouldn't do it. In terms of opportunities, some of these are pretty interesting. Employment hubs, like grassroots deliveries of social development responsibilities. And the one thing I got out of that was during COVID, we all recall the issues that we had in Raglan and some of the more nefarious types heading from there into Auckland. No one wanted to. So when they actually finally got to the appropriate iwi and community leaders, they took this on. Then they got to well over 90%. But all they did was just found people innocent, dragged them off the street and said, right, come with me and I'll give you a 5-minute lesson on how to give someone an injection. And so they did that locally and they succeeded. And they succeeded the opposite. So what I got out of that is we need to give people in communities more empowerment to get on and do things and maybe us step aside a bit. I think if we aren't already doing, I saw some people that had significant funding through Creative New Zealand. So I'm not too sure in our own organisation who is really inside this organisation, but I just saw some benefits through the cultural stuff, arts, youth festivals, etc. that I think our district is ready to go with, because we do have a lot of young people, and be able to harness that somewhere and get some money from another source, I thought was pretty good. And something we've spoken about here too, with especially Capital Works, is a bigger effort to spend locally. So yes, there might be a local contractor who takes a day longer and it costs $200 more, but the social value for him doing the work versus an outsider can't be underestimated. So there's a number of examples of people that are doing it. So I thought that was pretty useful. And something that's something I was walking around in this sort of room that you go for a cup of coffee. It was quite a few exhibits. Some of you actually know about a thing called an Oko tube, goes on top of a chimney. So I look around the pollution. If you want to make a difference in the environment, we'll go and stop all the bloody smoking chimneys around the place and stick one of these things on top of it and fix it. So we could do that as a council if we are serious about what's going on. We just have to tell people to get them and maybe even fund it if that's going to improve us. For me personally, I've got to say, like Murray, I was pretty disappointed. People said to me, what was the highlight of that conference? And I said, the final night with presentations from Jackie Clark. Wasn't the venue good value for money? For me, I didn't think it was. I was expecting to go, given the 3 major reforms we know about and a couple of others that are following up, is to actually, for local government New Zealand, to take a chance to hear what we think and how we thought. So I put a note down here. I saw LGNZ as an agency of central government as opposed to the vehicle for local government. And I do believe, out of this, we are going to change. We will not be worrying about roads. We will not be worrying about water. We will not worry about rubbish. We won't worry about anything about infrastructure. What we will worry about is the social stuff. And that is a discussion that I don't have to tell you anyone in this room about, that it will be major, because we will become a social agency. And are we going to wait for that? Or how are we going to do it when it's health issues, particularly around the health budget? I don't know. But then I just put my last thing, and this is the quantum change now in LGNZ works. I basically question the value of our council being part of it.
Can I just follow that up with a question then? Bruce, we've got a request from Waterfront New Zealand for their continued payment from us. Yeah, so did we pay that, did we?
I believe so, but I'd have to check how long we've been talking about.
It's probably about how much?
Yeah.
About 2 months, that would be about right. Yep. I asked for that to actually come before council, because I'm on a council to rethink whether or not they wanted to continue that subscription. And if they did decide to continue that subscription, actually put some expectations around it. But clearly that's not an opportunity now, but that's all right.
So all that meeting is online. I guess some of you have been back and looked at it, particularly if you're sorry souls, you've nothing better to do with yourselves. But the other thing that came out of that was based on the AGM and the remits, which happened after the meeting. So Murray and I sat in on those. But there was, for instance, I'd never seen a council, so no one, well, to the best of my knowledge, no one here knows what those remits were. And yet we were voting on something by remote control. But if you didn't dial on for the thing, the issue that came out of that was public transport being fully funded by central government. And maybe that was kind of right, because us providing free transport to bring someone from Coldwell with an eye complaint, I don't see that as our responsibility. I see that as central government's responsibility through a health budget. A review of our NZTA fund transport investments in New Zealand, and that part was that government funding doesn't line up with people's long-term plans because these things are 30-year projects, and somehow or other we've got a 3 to 10-year time frame for an asset that has a 30-year lifetime.
Look, the remits will come out and there'll be.
These are being voted on now. Do we support them? Illegal separation came up. Bylaw and changes came up.
They were voted on at the.
That's right.
Local government.
He's telling
So they're the.
No, post the conference. So the conference is over. On Thursday, there is an online meeting, which we will dial on to. Now, these 6 remits were the remits that got presented. So bylaw improvements, density and proximity for vaping. So there's a.
So hang on, you're saying that those remits are coming up on Thursday?
They came up the Thursday after the meeting.
It's done. He's
It's
just
done.
telling
I
us.
know it's done. That's what I'm trying to tell Tony. It was done. We'll get the information on that through Local Government New Zealand going forward. So.
But what he's saying, he voted on our behalf without us
I
even
know,
discussing
got
it.
that.
Yeah.
So I just say it's back to front at local government, as far as I am concerned.
Right, we need to move on, Tony.
And then I've got, the last thing in the remit, well, I've just got a report back from the meeting, I'm just giving it to you.
This is good stuff.
So the last thing was holding members of Local Government New Zealand on significant issues, i.e. what is the role of Local Government New Zealand, etc. So now those things turned up. I didn't have any council direction. We've supported all of them. But to me, I don't think the process works. But yeah.
So, Sandra, can I just add something with respect? I'm a member of the Young Elected Members Network. At the Young Elected Members Network, that's people under 40. And in the lead up to the conference, there was much discussion on their Facebook page about how councils were going to vote. And so I understand that a lot of other councils circulated that information about their remits prior to the conference so that their delegates did know what they were voting on their behalf.
But I hadn't seen it until then.
No, and so just saying there was probably an opportunity that was missed by this council.
Okay.
Okay, right, Sally.
One of my roles here is to be on a health Zoom that has been for some years now with the Mayor around the reforms of health nationally. And Hauraki is a pilot for locality planning. And we had a Zoom yesterday and there was a request to link with us at the council table so the team can share where we're at and the role of council within locality planning and health going into the future. So I've discussed it with the Mayor and there's been an allocation of some time within the actual meeting of September. So it's not like they've got 3 minutes in the public forum. And so I'll stop there because it's better for them to give you the detail than me being half-baked. And so that's the main thing. And I just want to acknowledge, I thought that yesterday was really important for the life and soul of this council, that I think we did a really good job and acknowledge those people that created that. It's not something that's sort of totally part of us yet, and I saw it as a major step and want to acknowledge that as somebody leaving this council, that was a really good start. And the warmth and humour at the end, as your team from Abahotaki was leaving, was, I think, a sure sign of a really special time, because in my experience, if it hasn't gone well, people are really polite and respectful, but they don't necessarily use humour. And there was humour on both sides. So thank you for that. And I think it's really important.
Excellent. Can I just acknowledge Sally and thank you, because she's taken the primary role of being our health representative of the council. And so I appreciate you taking on that job, Sally, because in the absence of me doing the Zoom.
And with going forward, it'll be a job, I think that's important not to be lost in the busyness it'll be important for someone else to pick it up.
Well, the hospital is hugely important for our district. That's such an asset, it's such it's just incredibly valued, priceless, caring.
Yes, I reinforce what Tony has said. Security cameras should be a top priority, as John Morrissey would know. The deterrents from cameras are just the best way to stop offending and just vandalism and other sorts of things. So the more we can put up, I know it sounds like Big Brother and the group who came today would be really happy about this. I actually, when I saw natural state, I was expecting a nudist, but no.
Public, yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Anyhow, main one I want to talk about was the freedom camping bylaws. It's got me thinking a bit more about it. I've looked at it and it needs to be consistent with the Bill of Rights, and there's a decision of Justice Clifford with the Thames Coromandel District Council in 2014, which I was aware of, and I've just started reading it. But when one looks at what we're proposing, we are proposing to look after people who have camper homes, and we are looking after the wealthy, and I'm not trying to be rude about being wealthy.
We're paying for
myself. We're paying for it. Yeah, we're paying for it. But what we seem to be missing what are the true freedom campers? The people who come in, the young ones who come in, they come in their van, they buy food here, they buy booze here, they go for surf lessons, they do all the stuff, and we're ignoring them. And I think we need to think this through. How do we look after this? And I think there's one aspect we need to really consider, because I really think we need to consider consistency with the Bill of Rights and other aspects here. I know it's going to feedback now, and it's going to be a process that will go on. But I'm just looking at the totality of it. That, you know, having camper vans come in and want to park by the beach, and they can be 12.6 metres long and really 5 metres high, and a group of them is not really helpful for people who are wanting to try and get around the beach to go down there. So we just need to reflect on where we're having them. And if they're going to have free camping, they should be in not the top spots. They should be pushed back somewhere which is not conducive. And Andrew's nodding in. Anyhow, that's just my comment here, but I really think we need to.
Totally endorse that, Gary. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Martin.
I just wanted to just reiterate what Sally said about yesterday. It felt very special, even just from when we first walked in the door down below, how that had been made over. Someone had suggested, or maybe we should keep it like that because it looked pretty good. But yeah, during that process, people were talking about possible ongoing relationships, and I guess I just really wanted to sort of question over the last 3 years. It doesn't seem that we've had a lot of those opportunities, thinking of regional council or adjoining councils. And also, it just sort of doesn't seem fair that LG&Z are being criticised without the right to reply. Like we had a couple of months ago, there was an idea that LG&Z people were going to come here. We
did come once, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I've engaged numerous times with a whole lot of different agencies for various webinars and that sort of thing with Regional Council, LG&Z, ECA, all sorts of other groups. And there are a whole lot of people out there trying to do good things, and it just seems that, that they're just getting bashed, and I don't think it's fair that they're not able to defend themselves. On a happier note, a resilient trust that I'm part of, we went over to Hamilton last week and did a test drive of an EV that we're looking to purchase for a drive share scheme here in Thames, which is pretty neat. And yes, that's about it really.
So what did you go to Hamilton for again, Martin?
So test drive an EV that's going to be in
It
Thames.
can't be towed.
Sorry?
Excuse me?
Can't be towed.
Yeah, and the burn coal. I stand by my original comments.
Good on you, Martin.
Yeah.
But just thank you, Martin. Robin.
Goodness, where to start? Except to say, I appreciated, and I agree with what Sally and Martin said about the photo that we had yesterday for Aileen. It was a very moving day, and I very much appreciated the opportunity to have that. So thank you. Been out and about. I went to the Thames Museum AGM, and I was absolutely astounded at the quality of the work that happens at the Thames Museum, the preserving of the history and the challenges that they face. I took the opportunity to have another quick whip around the Tairua Gallery, which if you haven't been to see, please go up. I must have mentioned it to you a dozen times by now. I've also been chatting to the Connect the bus driver. I was particularly interested about the half-price fares. And the bus driver tells me that we've had a very low uptake of the half-price fares for the Thames Connector, and that seems to be quite a steady thing. And I did want to ask Lorna whether we could, do any comms to just make people aware that did apply. So it's a bargain, $1 into town, and you get a lovely chat with all the people on the bus. Martin, Sally and I attended a lunch that Rotary put on in Sally's honour. And Sally received a medal, and that was a very nice way to connect and to connect with our community, but also to recognise Sally's service to the community. I was able to team into a meeting here with the Associate Minister of Local Government, and we talked about a range of topics. I thought it was quite nice to be able to have the ear of the Minister to ask about a whole range of different questions, and also to chat about some of the things that have been really vexing our local community in terms of roading. I'm not sad and lonely without anything to do. I'm a single mother with a very active young child, and yet I have managed to go to 2 LGNZ online forums, thank you, Tony, unpacking the resource management reform and also exploring the future for local government review, both of which I thought were quite well worth my time. They're both online. If you're a member of the LGNZ website, which is free to elected members, you can go and watch those. It's just an opportunity to learn and upskill. And there was one other thing I didn't write down. I'll have to wait.
Thank you, Robin. John.
All right, for a change, I will say something at members' reports. I don't usually. That LGNZ conference was really good. I agree with you totally, Tony. Jackie Clark was awesome. She was the highlight, and it was a bit unfair on David Parker and Stuart Nash to try and even compare. She was always going to take the prize. That was my 3rd local government New Zealand conference, and I felt really lucky to have gone, okay? Did I feel it was value for money? Yes, I did, okay? I would actually, in future councils, at least send the mayor and the CEO, but even for a little pleb like me, a little councillor, the networking and the talking I did to other people was just invaluable. I got a lot from it. I did feel at some stages that maybe government, they were like a conduit for central government, just forcing information into us. It could have been done a little bit better, but I still think there was value in it. But yeah, no, I'd always support at least the mayor and the CEO going to those things, reasonable value for people at that level. And councillors, certainly I myself got some value out of it. The networking was a big thing, like I said. That last night, I got into a fair bit of strife with my wife. Of course, I left her sitting at the table with Tony and Murray, and didn't I? And I was just out there talking to people, talking. And it was really good value. So, yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to have attended. I got something out of it.
I thought you had to get bags.
Yeah, well, I was out. Hang on, now I'll tell you something. As a smoker, you enter a whole new world when you go out there into that drug arena. I met Louis out there for the first time. I would actually network with all the people that were out there. I even would go outside, to the Three Water protesters and stuff, share a cigarette out there, mate. Get the inside goss. It's just, so don't knock smoking, it does have advantage.
With my health hat on.
We're not as a council Contonians.
That ad was supported by Winfield.
They say the smoker circles are the best circles, mate, so there you go.
You learn a lot.
Yeah, I also the local government of New Zealand, when they signed the heads of agreement, we didn't really understand what was going on there, and Stuart Crosby came and spoke to us about it and sort of pushed the agenda a little bit. But I see the Taxpayers Union come out and addressing it through a legal challenge, which might have some implications down the line. So not all that's all dusted there. Still some actions around, and must be very difficult for staff to try and figure out what to do going forward. Whangamata is just starting its long-term plan of looking where they're going down the road, and staff are going to do some work and help us on that. Really around short-term accommodation and housing and wellbeing is a big issue. Attended a meeting of Whangamata Harbour Care. They're involved with looking after the harbour and the seedlings and the mangroves. Currently, the deal is that they've got to cut them off with a handheld instrument and put them into a bag and take them away. And for 70-year-olds who can't even get down to their knees, this is a real major problem. So we're trying to work that through with regional council and try and get some better understanding of control and management of the harbour, especially the seedlings. Grey Power attended a meeting there. They're our biggest membership in town. They're really keen to see what's happening with the future of government and around wellbeing and how it's going to affect them and where it's going to be the benefits. So really looking forward to see what comes out from that. Pauanui boat ramp has had a real issue with sand built up there, and there's talks about the construction of the wharf and how it's affecting it and other issues. So we're going to work with the coastal scientist, Jamie, and try and figure that out. That's a bit of a raised issue over there we're trying to deal with. And of course, the boat ramps, you've heard about all that, so I don't need to go into that any deeper, but there's going to be some damage and some staff harassment around that. And the final one is the Tairua Skate Park. It's still continuing, and I can see legal down the road with that one. So hopefully one day they'll get a skate park. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. And I'll just pick up 2 or 3 things. For Three Waters, the Taxpayer Union are challenging the legality of the Bill's recommendation for a shareholding in the Waters assets. And I don't know that councils have properly grasped it. My understanding that assets owned by council are private property, and as such, the government, when usurping private property, has roles and responsibilities in regard to the owner of that private property. And I don't know that's been properly addressed in the first instance, whereas now they're arguing the legality of creating a shareholding without any entitlements. The issue of dealing with a private property owner, I don't think has been addressed. So that's my only comment that I'll make about Three Waters. John, I'd just like to thank you, Tony and Murray, all for going to the local government conference alongside Bruce. I didn't want to go. I'm just a bit over local government New Zealand, and I don't think sorry, I'll rephrase that. I think they've lost sight of local, and regional councils are tending to predominate. I think that's the issue with local government New Zealand and the creation of all these subgroups within it, and the dominance of some of those subgroups. There's only one other subject that I want to raise, which was presented to us this morning, and I thought the young woman, was it Elizabeth Carter? On 5G, I thought she did an excellent presentation, and I have to say I am concerned about 5G. I am concerned about how the effects of 5G, and I can't phrase it. I don't know enough. I don't think many of us do, but I certainly know that there are effects, and I'd love to see the Ministry of Health come out with a statement around the risks and the responsibilities that go with that in establishing 5G throughout our communities.
Can I ask Bruce, what is our role in this, like, have we got resource consenting?
Utilities. Yeah, so through the chair, just quickly, our role is processing resource consents, but obviously there's central government legislation that was set up to allow these types of things. And so it's not a situation which I understand and get that is hard for the public to grasp. It's not a situation that we can just turn around and go, no, you can't do it. They can meet all the requirements they need to meet to put the utility on that site, then we have to grant that.
Right.
So that's the situation we're in. I totally understand. It's hard for the public to understand that. They think they can just come and talk to us and we say, no, it doesn't work like that. So
People power works here, doesn't it?
The issue solely rests with government. So where people have a concern, they have to try and engage with the government over changing the dynamic around that, but I don't think you'll get that change. It seems to be embedded. If that's the case, then the government has a responsibility to let us know what the risks and the potential effects are. And I do know there are different research has been done throughout the world. So I'm just saying, putting it out there, and I have some sympathy for that. No wonder I'm going off grid. Tony, then Martin.
Oh, yes, sure. What you've raised. So will we like to, Steve or whoever, put that question and get that answer? Because what you rightly say is, it's not where the meat and sandwich. And so the discussion's going to be with central government. It'd be quite handy for us as a council to be able to provide for those people who have those concerns what the Ministry of Health have told us. Because I'm pretty certain I know what the answer is.
Are you wanting to move to that effect?
I would move that we formally request answers to the question you raised from the Ministry of Health, if that is the appropriate agency.
Okay. Do I have a second for that?
I'm just trying to follow what is being proposed. It's about the harm. So to go to them, say 5G. So we've had a presentation today saying the 5G, you can't sleep, the butterflies die, the birds die. And indeed, they've mentioned the lobster company, but I happen to know that company and the people that own it well. And I'm not aware of them having a concern. But anyhow, so we need an answer, because if you ask me, I'm not worried about 5G. I'm looking forward to the technology that will come with it. But if it's going to be harmful to your health, I'd like to know. So we should ask that question. And if the answer is no, I'll take it. If the answer is yes, we should.
I just think it's important that people realise that 5G is, there's nothing inherently different from the other. It just happens to be the 5th generation.
That's right, I agree.
There's similar or lower radiation emissions from 5G as there is from 4G, as there was from 3G. It's not a different system, it's just the number.
That's what I'll tell you.
It's like version 3 or version 4.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is Chinese influence, people worry about that as well as the effects of, and you're not going to get that from the Ministry of Health.
So then I'm quite happy to just let that lapse because as I said, I don't know anything about it. I'd be concerned if there was any health effect.
I think it's like the fluoride situation, you know, it's very contentious. And I think at our peril, do we become embroiled in the rights and the wrongs? Like if let's just keep to our knitting in terms of what we're responsible for.
So you just say also that, you know, the 5Gs they're putting in, they don't have a big distance. You'll see them all in the rubbish bins all up the main street. They put them in there. It's because there's only just so far. It's not the range you can have with the 4G that I understand.
That's right.
It carries more data, but over a shorter distance. Yeah.
So through the chair, what I would say is just that last little point is we put out lots of information to each week regarding 5G. So there is information that they've already responded out to communities regarding this. So whether it's useful that we have that information.
Might drag you down.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Information, yeah. So at least you understand where we're at before you make any decisions.
Yes,
it's a real
idea.
But it is
community, yeah, they're not happy.
Anyone else can take the opportunity to write to the Ministry of Health.
Yeah.
So that's good. I appreciate the discussion. I think it's worthy that we did have some discussion around that. So thank you. That now concludes the members' report. Do I have a mover?
Okay.
Thank you, Tony. Secretary Terry, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Public excluded. Do I have a mover?
Yep.
Moved. Robin, seconded. John, all those in favour, please say aye.
Yeah, Gary, thank you. Right, we're doing that.